Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to open things up for questions at the end of our time today, so feel free to use the little chat window on the panel of the GoToMeeting, and we'll open up towards the end. This session is also being recorded, so we'll send that out along with the slide deck so you can have it and share with your colleagues. For those of you who are not very familiar with Zuri Group, I thought it would be a great opportunity to further introduce the group and myself. Zuri Group is a full-service nonprofit consulting technology firm. We offer in strategic and technical services across a wide range of areas, including CRM, peer-to-peer fundraising, SEO and analytics, web design and development, fundraising strategy and operations. We are system agnostic, which means we work in any and all systems and on a variety of software. We also specialize in the nonprofit space. My name is Margaret Hiss, and I'm a consultant here at Zuri Group. I spend quite a bit of time on fundraising strategy, system selections, and ultimately supporting organizations in making educated decisions. At the end of our time today, I will leave you with my contact information. If you have any questions on the items we'll be touching on or anything else, please feel free to reach out. To get us started, I thought it would be a great opportunity to highlight one of my favorite success stories. Zuri Group worked with an organization to achieve a 30% increase in gifts during year end. This comprehensive campaign was a collaborative effort and required a bit of planning up front and a lot of flexibility throughout. Today I will work to elaborate on some of the efforts that drew such success, and I listed some of them here, including homepage and website elements, banner ads, strategic content placement, data-driven email campaigns, and a peer-to-peer fundraising element. Before we dive into planning our campaign, let us use this as an opportunity to review our data. We hear about it often, but as we enter a very strategic time of year, it's vital that the data we're working with is accurate. And we also want to set ourselves up for success, as data management and processing will likely increase substantially over the next few months. Consider embarking on a business process audit. What does this entail? Identifying high volume and high value business processes. Essentially, where are the time suckers in our current process? Organize a process map and steps for details. Look for efficiencies and challenges. Adopt improvements that will help raise more money and build better relationships. It's never too late to work through these exercises, and Zuri Group often supports organizations on their journey to work more efficiently. Let's also touch on the value of email. Nonprofits sent an average of 66 email messages per subscriber in 2017. This marked an 11% increase in volume from 2016. The jump is pretty clear when you consider that email can reach a global audience. It's easy to share, low cost, drives revenue, and it's very easy to measure, which is something we'll expand on today. Let's start with understanding the past to set us up for a successful future. Consider your current email program and marketing in general. What can we learn from this? Use this information to form a baseline report and year-end campaign. This could mean generating your standard progress comparison report or a first-time benchmark report. Regardless, if you can gather data to act as a foundation to work from, you're likely in good shape. MNR benchmark report is one of my favorites. The screenshots you see here are from that report, and it's public online if you're not too familiar with it. The report is broken up by sector and group size wherever possible, which is very helpful. Going back to our email volume example, M&R reported that environmental nonprofits sent an average of 89 emails per subscriber, the most of any sector, and health sector had the lowest volume with 38. And this stat alone really sheds light on how important it is to consider the data that you're using for your comparison report to make sure the sector's accurate, the volume, and all of those data elements align with your comparison. I like to build my own foundational report, and I typically use this report as a template for tracking campaign progress. It makes it a little bit easier. For this example, my environmental organization is stacking up fairly nicely against the environmental sector benchmark numbers. You can see that I have documented the same data for each of our monthly newsletters, making the comparison progress report very easy to understand. I included some formulas here to help you calculate these numbers. However, a lot of email systems provide you with data from standard or canned reports that typically support these templates. When calculating your unsubscribe rate, consider your email volume. Is there a correlation between the volume and your unsubscribe rate? It's also important to note when people unsubscribe. Perhaps it's on the second email or the fourth email, and being able to identify consistencies around these drop-offs will help us better understand our group. Calculating your response rate really depends on what you consider your deliverable email list. In simple terms, it's a total number of people asked to participate divided by the total number of responses. The catch here is how we define the total number of people. Consider using your fully deliverable email addresses as your total number of people, and keep in mind that healthy lists require some work, so you'll want to do some health checks quite often. Now let's use this data to set our goals for this year end. This year, I set these 4 goals from our organization: acquire and convert new subscribers, re-engage and grow lists, learn through testing and tracking, and leverage a multimedia campaign. Some of these are data-driven goals, and they give us a foundation to compare against as we touched on in building a foundational report. So we'll start here with acquisition. There are a couple of ways of expanding your list through popular petition sites like change.org and Care2. From the website, change.org allows you to create a petition, something that is related to your cause or your organization. Change.org, in this example, will promote the petition for you, and petition signers will be added to a list for you to further target. The end result here is a fresh list or fresh set of records who have already expressed interest in something connected to your organization. If this route is not in your budget, there are alternative methods to support acquisition as well, and we'll touch on a couple of those. You can offer email sign up in more relevant places, move this call to action around, and follow the traffic. The job isn't done once we have our email sign up outlet somewhere on our site. We'll want to make sure that it's in a prominent location and easy to access. Something else I think is very beneficial is being able to sell signing up. So what can we offer an individual for their email address? You've probably seen it before when you're online shopping, but it really tells the visitors why they should want to be a part of the email list or join your email list and what benefits it has. Some examples I've added on this slide. I really like by joining our email list, you'll learn X, Y, and Z. So up front, you're communicating what you'll get by joining our community, or join our family. That's an incentive alone. The Crate and Barrel example that I have pictured here, the 10% off, which is not super applicable to our year-end campaign, but a good example of leveraging a light box or valuable website real estate to promote sign-up. We have our plan for acquisition, and now we'll shift gears to our current subscribers with a focus on those we've likely lost touch with. In order to understand more about our audience, we need to define this group. Define your starting list size by those who have likely opted in versus your mailable list size. For reporting purposes, I recommend picking one of the two to stay consistent. You typically use which one looks better in your reports. People often ask me about hard and soft bounces and how that influences your email performance. Hard bounce examples, just to shed some light on that aspect, are recipient email addresses that don't exist, a domain that doesn't exist, an email server that is completely blocked delivery, which we've also referred to in the past as blacklisted. Soft bounces are a little bit more fluid. Mailbox could be full or over quota. Recipient email server is down or offline, or the email message is too large, which is something to consider, but usually rare. So you can calculate your list size by taking your starting list and subtracting the number of hard bounces received to get a nice number for reporting purposes. Our next piece will be to re-engage current subscribers by sending an engagement series to subscribers who have not opened emails in, you could do X amount of months. I have 6 here as an example. What this does is it really takes the list that we already have control over and gives everyone another opportunity to become a little bit more engaged or involved with our email marketing plan. You can create a user journey or path off of engagement, and the flow chart on the right is from Engaging Networks Marketing Automation. I took it from an example that they had on their website. You can see that the user journey is determined based off of action. So for this example, a group of users receives mailing number 1. After 7 days, if a user doesn't open the mailing, they receive a text. If they did open the mailing, they skip the text and jump to the second email in the series. The next engagement strategy is to offer feedback opportunities and account update options. So we just sent out an engagement series to see who's still kind of with us. Now let's give them something to kind of interact with that's not just a newsletter or an informative email or a giving ask. The first example here I really like is pick our next newsletter photo. So present users with image choices for the next newsletter. This kind of relates back to selling our email sign up. So giving the end user a reason to become a little bit more engaged. The next example here is present users with an opportunity to update their profile. So perhaps they've entered an incorrect first name in a contact form years ago, and they're kind of tired of receiving an email with that misspelled name, or maybe the first letter isn't capitalized. Let's present them the opportunity to update that information for us. Not only does that make it a little bit more friendly for them to receive communications, but it helps us make sure that we have accurate data. A nice return on investment report for these types of engagement strategies might be calculating the number sent versus the number opened, and then versus the number clicked or addresses updated to see if you should continue to send this engagement series throughout the year. So we've touched on acquisition and re-engagement to warm up our list, and now we'll dive a little bit into testing. Our first testing piece is to discuss A/B testing, which is simple enough, sending 2 or more emails to a portion of your list and sending the best performing email to the remainder of your list. It sounds easy, and it can definitely drive better results. Some examples of A/B tests include subject line tests, where you send 2 mailings with different subject lines. Your goal here is to increase the open rate. A message tone test might be to drive conversion or click-through rates, where one message has a certain tone and the other message has a completely different tone. Day of the week testing and time of day, I think, are really fun to keep on this list. People often ask me, what day of the week should we send our emails, or what time of day is best? And to be honest, it's really all up to the group of people and the time of year you're sending the mailing. It's good to learn more about our constituent group and what they expect from us in terms of the timing. Email signature and from email address are also really fun to test. When we receive a mass email in our inbox, you get it from an email address. Is that do not reply at zurigroup.com, or is it a little bit more friendly? There is no right or wrong, but it is good to test to see what our group reacts better to. And then a landing page test will likely support a test around conversion. You can direct users to certain different landing pages. One might be a simple landing page, one might be filled with impactful content. Being able to provide these 2 different options that are very clear and then support the end result. Fun kind of story, I was working with an organization who recently rebranded. We needed to redesign their newsletter to match the new brand. Rather than forcing the change to the general group, we wanted to learn more about our audience to see how they'd react to the jump in design. So we conducted a test. We sent the same newsletter content to the entire group. However, 20% of the group received the newsletter in their old design or their old brand template, whereas the other 20% received the newsletter in their new design and brand and template. The remainder of the list received the best performing one. Time and time again, the old template, which didn't match their brand anymore at all, continued to outperform the new one. So we learned that while the new template matches our other marketing materials on our website, this group interacted more with the version they were more accustomed to, which kind of supports the data always tells the truth. So we talked a little bit about testing, and in order to understand, which email or what test won, we'll jump into tracking. This is an example. I have in here listed that canned reports work well. I think that's nice to get out there. This is an example of a Lumina online report. It took me about 90 seconds to generate this report. Using quick reports makes updating your comparison report that we originally discussed a little bit easier. While you're tracking email progress, it's important to consider how you'll generate the data you need to make quick decisions during a strategic period. The easier the comparison report is to build, the more likely you are to use the tool. So if this report takes me 90 seconds to pull out of my email system, I'm more likely to spend that 90 seconds each time or often after I send the mailing to see where we're stacking up towards our goals, whether it's year end or throughout the year. You can also leverage tools like Google Analytics to further track your email performance and engagement. This URL builder allows you to easily add campaign parameters to URLs so you can track custom campaigns in Google Analytics. You can see here that the boxes on the screen outline different elements for my year-end campaign or different elements that I'd like to track. The source is used to identify a newsletter name or other source. In this example, I have EOY18. This will allow me to run a report on anything that's using that source, so across multiple emails. The medium is used to identify the medium, such as email in this example. The campaign is used to identify a specific promotion or a strategic initiative. In this example, I've used a campaign to represent the day that I'm sending the mailing, so then I can pull a report on that specific email and how it performed in Google Analytics. And then content. I have content blank here, but this space is used to differentiate links that point to the same URL. So going back to that landing page test that we might want to consider for year end, if you have a hyperlink in an email or a hyperlink or an area of space that should go to two separate places, this content space will allow you to track the two. In the back end of Google Analytics, this allows you to view your report under your acquisition and campaign. The catch here, and full disclosure with the analytics tracking, is that someone might actually get to your landing page without a tracked URL. So this option is typically better for an organization who is looking for pretty close data rather than spot on. We walked through acquisition, re-engagement, and testing and tracking. And now we'll touch a little bit upon the multimedia campaign. Earlier, I mentioned the great success story with a comprehensive multimedia approach. Here's another example of a cohesive campaign that supports connectivity, engagement, and ultimately led to conversion. It leverages email designs, which include the year-end campaign theme or brand, connected to crowdfunding elements, which are also connected to the donation form. You can see that they all look very similar. And then the social media outlet also matches the campaign theme. What this does is it allows the user to get used to the theme and see the brand often or the message often, ultimately leading to more engagement and donations. Other elements that you can consider are homepage and website real estate, so being able to put something prominently on your homepage, banner ads, strategic content placement, so going back to that tracking content and location, and then a peer-to-peer fundraising element. Finally, we'll touch on some tools. Now that we've wrapped up our goals for this year, we'll touch on some tools that you can use to set yourself up for success and help kind of glue everything together to support your campaign. Email calendar and planning tools. When laid out this way, it might look like a lot, It's helpful to have these tools available across different groups internally. Going back to the multimedia approach, it's great for the social media folks to know what's in the queue for the email marketing folks and vice versa. It's nice to track as you go and be fluid and flexible. And when we chase results, which is something we just touched on, sometimes it calls for last minute adjustments. I typically like to see my email calendars laid out this way, use color codes to determine what types of groups are receiving what, but make sure you have it in a format that you can edit. So we might want to change something based on the performance of a previous mailing or communication. Develop a tracking template to ensure data is easily accessible. Make sure your reports are easy to generate. This can mean using a canned report or documenting the steps to pull a report. So going back to that 90-second example, if an out-of-box report does not give you everything you need, it might be nice for you to document the steps it takes to rerun or update the report that you're using as your template, not only to make it quicker for you to pull the data, but in case someone else would like to do their own comparison, they can replicate the steps that you used to generate that data. Track as you go and make changes based on that data. Refer back to your definition of success and make changes to meet those goals. If one of your goals is to increase open rate by 5%, moving it from 14 to 19%, conduct regular health checks. Ask yourself, are we on the path to success? Do we need to make changes to our plan in order to meet this goal? Next up is gift receipting and how to make sure we're accurate, complete, and that timing is good. Most organizations receive a substantial percentages of their annual gift volume between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Proper gift receipting and timeliness is critical. Receipts are defined pretty well in IRS Publication 1771. Your team should strive to be accurate with gift recording, complete in communication such as handling tribute gifts, and timely by responding in days and not weeks. Your process can be streamlined by putting top donors and donations first. For example, start from a front of the line approach. Once these are handled, prepare for high volume. Many benefit from a single letter to receipt and acknowledge most donors. This is typically acceptable for gifts that are under $250, so keep that in mind. Overall, doing what the IRS says or supporting donors' needs here is critical. And keep in mind that your timing is being measured by your donors. If you take 2 weeks and another does it quicker, they'll notice. Before we open things up for questions, I wanted to touch on some takeaway points from our time. Today we spoke to the importance of clean data and efficient business processes, building a benchmark comparison report and the value of understanding your constituents, acquiring and converting new subscribers, re-engaging constituents to support healthy lists, email testing and tracking, the value of a multimedia approach, and proper gift receipting. So I did want to open this up for questions. Everyone is actually on mute. I just wanted to check. It doesn't look like anyone put anything in the chat box. We still have a few minutes here should you want to do that. We will send out the slide deck following today's time. Should you have questions on anything we covered today and templates and prep for your year end or general questions for the group. And then I mentioned I'll leave my contact information up should you have any other questions. Okay, well, thanks everyone for your time today. Kim Everett will send this out to the group and we look forward to being in touch.